Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Crown and Skull, and we're going to talk about Crown and Skull in context of Dungeons & Dragons and how it is different than Dungeons & Dragons. And today I want to talk about phases. Okay, so Dungeons & Dragons, you roll initiative, and then all the player characters and all of the monsters go in initiative order, right? It's different in Crown and Skull. So Crown and Skull is really fascinating. So basically, every player character simply chooses the phase that they go in, right? So the phases are phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and phase 5. And then we begin another round. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and phase 5, right? So you're like, how's that different? Well, it's pretty different. All right, so first of all, the enemies go in phase... Actually, yes. So basically, the player characters choose first what phases they want to go in. So you're like, well, so they just choose phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, or phase 5? Yes, okay. Now, why is this important? Well, whenever a character hits 0 hit points, they die. They die at the end of phase 5. They die at the end of the round, right? So basically, if, so basically, you need players that can take an action after a player character falls to 0, because there's very little time for them to reach over and put in a potion of healing into one of their fellow compatriots who just went to 0 and is going to die at the end of the round. That is really compelling timing, and I know it doesn't sound compelling because I just told it to you. But man, when you see it, it is extremely alarming, right? And frankly, I think everybody who plays Crown and Skull is going to be like, whatever. And then one of the player characters is going to die, and they're like, oh man, we need to make sure that everybody. We need to have, if we have 4 people, if we have a wizard, a fighter, a cleric, and a rogue, we better make sure that the cleric is going on round 5, so they can do something before the round ends and save a player character who's at 0 hit points and is going to die at the end of the round, right? So the player characters just put themselves in the phases wherever they want. And you're like, wait a second, what? And you're like, well, what about the roll, right? What about the initiative roll, right? The reality is it's not there. And the reason why is I cannot stress this enough. Crown and Skull runs dramatically faster than Dungeons & Dragons. You're going to, so if you have a 2-hour session, you're going to tell like 50 to 75% more story, right? Because there's all these rules mechanics that keep the narrative moving astonishingly quickly. And this is one of them, right? Now, when do monsters go? So monsters are going to drop in as well, okay? And you're like, well, wait a second. What if a monster and a player character are in the same phase? The hero goes first, okay? Wait a second, Scott. What if 2 player characters are in the same phase? They determine their own order. It's their choice. They can choose it they can switch it every round, right? And then you're like, okay, I get it, right? But here's one other thing that monsters can do that player characters can't. So some monsters can go in 1 to 3 phases. Yeah, so you could have one monster like Lord Strahd from Ravenloft. He would go in phase 1, phase 3, and phase 5. One player character taking actions on 3 separate phases. That's how you make a deadly, super, hyper deadly enemy, right? And I will tell you, I look through the book everywhere. There is nothing, literally nothing in the book, right, that allows a player character to move more than 1 phase in a round, which means that your monsters can reap, right? Like your monsters can be really super deadly, and it keeps combat moving so fast. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5. Who's got an action? Let's go. The rhythm is quick, the action is quick, and the timing, it's a dance. It's a dance that's learned by the players. There's nothing like it in Dungeons & Dragons. It is far better than the initiative order. and it's just better. There's no two ways about it, right? Now, I will say one thing that I've been considering is giving a gift of a player being able to take another action in the same round if they're prepared, or if they drink some type of potion, or something, or maybe they're inspired, like a battle master, like gives them a command or something. Like, so I've been considering that, and I love that it's not in the book. It's a gift you could give to the players as the dungeon master. I am so loving Crown and Skull. It is phenomenal. I cannot stress to you enough. Get this book. This thing is awesome on wheels, in my humble opinion. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion about all the cool things of Crown and Skull phases. The important part is when I can tell you your humble opinion about Crown and Skull, about Dungeons & Dragons, about running active, awesome campaigns. Please consider liking, subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.